DTM eSports returns for back-to-back weeks to open up the 2026 campaign. A fantastic race we had back in Zandvoort. And once again, in the commentary booth, it's myself, John Munro, joins me. And what a race it was to open out that season. What a victory it was from Ottaviani.
It really was spectacular, wasn't it, Lewis? Obviously, we had a lot of close-knit racing. It was difficult to make moves, but that didn't stop the drivers from trying, and we did see a few fantastic overtakes, a few controversial moments as well, but ultimately just a fantastic strategic battle, especially between the top three. We had Ottaviani, we also had Manuel Vera and Maximilian Beneke. The three of them could not be separated for basically the entire race. It was very closely fought, but Ottaviani came through to win, and it was a spectacular start to the season.
Showed obviously that qualifying was incredibly important. We'll be talking about qualifying in a few minutes' time because it'll be coming up a little bit later on this broadcast before we have yet another 1 hour race. I think going into this round, maybe qualifying is going to be slightly less important here at the Lausitzring than it was back in Zandvoort.
You would think so with the track layout at Lausitzring, but I don't think it's necessarily that simple because these drivers are so closely matched. You know, yes, there are more overtaking opportunities at Lausitzring. There's also more opportunities for momentum to shift, for side-by-side running through a few corners. And if you get out of line here, you really could find yourself dropping 3 or 4 positions. So I do think we'll see a lot of that. But these drivers are the best of the best. They know how to keep it tidy, and they're so closely matched pace-wise. It's still going to be a massive challenge. If you can't qualify somewhere near the front, it's going to be difficult to come away with the top results. So qualifying will still be important, but it's a long race. Strategy comes into play. I think strategy is going to be more important this time around as well. More can be done there. So I'm very intrigued to see how it plays out.
Very much so. Well, we've spoken a little bit about the last round at Zandvoort. We've had a fantastic race. Let's take you through highlights of that one before we get ready for tonight's action. Well, you can see their formation app is just beginning. Alessandro Ottaviani is in control. It's Vera, it's Ribeiro, and they're leading down into the opening corner. Still Alessandro Ottaviani hanging on to it. It's Vera, Ribeiro, and Beneke. At the moment, the top three, the 2 Falcon Sim Racing cars. We look at Beneke, though, onto the rear end, and out wide goes Tomas Ribeiro. Here comes the move. They go through Sky Black, and it should be Beneke coming through into third position. Brilliant move from Max Beneke. Can Max Beneke close down the gap? Answer that question is yes, he certainly can. It is coming down to just under a second between him and Vera. There's a look to the inside. Oliveira trying to make the move on Ribeiro. 4th position we're seeing the fight for. Looks to the outside, which leaves his door open to the champion. It's Lucas Muller trying to go for the move. Can't quite do it just here. I think the drive off should be better for the BS competition driver of Kiki Oliveira. It's Lucas Muller who we look to the outside, backs out of it wisely. It's going to be a big one. What can Alessandro Ottaviani do? Can Manuel Vera hold the speed? HGE eSports looking for their first victory in the DTM eSports Championship. He's very close to Alessandro Ottaviani, carrying more speed, but not close enough. Ottaviani covers him off, plays it perfectly, pole position, and will continue to be the net race leader. And is seemingly struggling a little bit, and he gets tapped! Oh, Moritz Lerner just taps the rear end of Lucas Muller going through turn 10. Leave us on the background. There's Tobias Gronewold, goes for a big move down the inside of Tim Yargel. Gets very aggressive there on the inside, goes full send. And it's going to be 3 wide potentially here as Jonas Wana, I believe, is almost knocking the door as well. Round towards Sky Black they go. The inside line for Tobias Gronewold. Is he going to be able to hang on, or maybe sticking around the outside of Sky Black? 9 minutes and 30 seconds to decide it. That was a mistake though from Vera. That could open the door for Max Beneke to come through. Alessandro Ottaviani sees the gap grow to nearly a second, the largest gap that it's really been throughout the entirety of this race. Beneke looks to the outside, goes full send. He's going to go wide here. He's going to go straight on. I think there might have been a touch between the two of them, but I'm not sure if Vera was closing the door off. But regardless, Max Beneke has gone straight on.
And there's more contact as Hakkinen turns Lerner around. We didn't see the start of that. But Lerner is now going to drop back, and he's going to lose more positions unless he can get that BMW going, and he has done.
Wow.
P7 for Lerner. That was a bit exciting, wasn't it?
But look at how close Manuel Vera is. It's going to be a look to the outside, potentially here into Tarzan. The inside line generally is favoured, but can Vera get brave on the outside? He's going to go full send, but can't quite do it. The look to the inside, maybe the up and under. Not there yet. It will be Alessandro Ottaviani through the final corner to win the opening race of the 2026 season. Alessandro Ottaviani takes Vitality to the top, ahead of Vera and ahead of Beneke.
Incredible stuff, and you can see there Ribeiro flashing the lights in the background, picking up P4, and only 3 seconds off the lead in the end.
Great victory there from Alessandro Ottaviani. Obviously, Max Benneker involved in it. And for me, Manuel Vera really showing that form that was found back in the Red Bull Ring last season, keeping that pace up, keeping in contention, and nearly taking his first victory in DTM eSports. It was a really fun race, really interesting on strategy, wasn't it? And there was a couple of incidents in there as well, John.
There certainly was. I mean, we'll start with Vera. I think you called it last week. Vera is a driver that's always been in and around the mix of the top splits and doing a good job, but he's never really been that top grade tier A driver that's able to fight for victories day in, day out. And maybe that changes this week. He did say after the race he wasn't actually expecting to be running that near the front, but he was right there on pace. And not only was he right there, I would say he was possibly the one who showed that he could actually take the fight to Ottaviani. I think maybe Vera even had the most pace of all, but what defensive drive it was from Alessandro as well. He got very close, didn't he, Vera, with a couple of laps to go, looking around the outside into Tarzan, but it didn't happen for him. And obviously Ottaviani just kept his cool and delivered a very solid start to the season.
It was a great podium, wasn't it? I mean, we can see the podium here. Alessandro Ottaviani, Manuel Vera, Max Benneker. The two of those, second and third position, had that little bit of an incident coming down into the arena, didn't they? Vera on the inside, Max Benneker trying to get to the outside. The two of them coming together. I think that one was, two drivers racing pretty hard. I understand why Benneker might feel a bit hard done by, but fair enough between the pair of them. The standings, John, a little bit. The points will look a little bit inflated because obviously points roll down through all of the splits that we have. It's not just the broadcaster split we have here. We have plenty of splits that run below this that drivers are still effectively in the same, well, they are in the same championship. There's no effectively about it. That's why some of the points look a little bit inflated. But there are a few drivers, John, that are well out of position compared to where they finished back in Zandvoort because we had a lot of penalties.
There certainly were. The key ones there, Moritz Lerner, of course, you saw in the VT there, spinning Lucas Muller, who dropped all the way down to 16, finished in the top 8 there in the race, but ends up 19th in the standings heading into the second round here. Turka Hakkinen, another notable one, finished in the top 5, but it was 21st in the standings for the NeedRacing.com driver. And as you can see, the points are so closely separated between the drivers. This championship really does reward consistency, and that means that the drivers who have been heavily penalised are really going to be feeling that heading into future rounds. So it's been a bit of a nightmare there. A couple of other names that didn't have a Jack Keithley obviously encountered some issues, potentially having to come through the pit lane one extra time and finishing 14th, or probably lower than that, but he's actually 14th in the standings. So still there or thereabouts standings wise. I think in general it was a poor day, Lewis, for the former champions. So Lucas Muller obviously we saw being spun around. Lerner's had his penalty, and you've got Tim Yarshall down there in 26th as well for Falcon. So he also
Yeah, I mean, you've got a couple of drivers there further down on the right-hand side. Your Shaba Hagedis, your Cody Nikolakovsky, David Sabera, they were racing in split 2. But that's what I mean. They're still involved in the point score. They're still involved in the championship. You see them come up in towards split 1, and maybe they'll be contending for a victory up here as well as where they were going in split 2. You mentioned Moritz Lerner a little bit earlier on there, and of course Moritz Lerner, fantastic driver, probably had quite a disappointing round there. Ended up down in 7th position. Obviously dropped down a little bit further in the points there, but there was a great interview with him between the 2 rounds. Let's see what he had to say on the build-up towards this round here at the Lausitzring.
Hi Moritz, great to have you with us today. The first question is about your comeback in DTM eSports. You missed the last season, now you're back. How would you sum up your return on the championship?
Yeah, it's nice to be back. Last year I unfortunately had to watch from the basically grandstands, and also the previous year kind of doing it part-time. Now back full-time, which I really love, since it's kind of the championship, that kickstarted a lot of things for me. So happy to be back, and also happy that I had, I would say, a good race, a decent race. Probably wasn't the very best, since the very best, as you can tell from the previous years, was always like winning races. But it's gotten a lot more harder these days to win races in DTM eSports. A lot more really good drivers, and a lot of drivers that stepped up from previously not being up to top. So pretty nice to see. But definitely a new format of like 2 pit stops and everything was a ton of fun for me. So much strategy you can do, so much thinking you can do in the race, and work with the pace you have, and that was a lot of fun. And even though it was only P7 in the end, I had a lot of fun, and I'm quite happy with the result.
Exactly what we saw too. The opening round was quite intense, so we never saw a first race of a championship with so many fights. Why do you think is it like it is?
I think part of it is the fixed setup, because everyone is so close together now, because obviously with the fixed setup you cannot like drive a lot of practice hours and like find out those little tricks that you can usually always find within the setups. And so the field is very compressed, it's like very compact now, and everyone is kind of on the same pace, and that just shows you how good also the drivers are, because everyone is so close, and that just means there's battles all over the place. Zandvoort probably wasn't even the best example, because you can't really overtake too well on this track. It's basically almost impossible if you know how to defend there. So the only possibilities you had were through pit stops. Which definitely shake things up. But I think at Lausitzring, for example, next round we will see a lot more fighting, a lot better fighting, since this track actually allows you to overtake and go side by side a lot more times.
Moritz, this year you have a teammate alongside you on the grid. What does that mean for you personally and for the team as a whole?
It's definitely great to have a teammate again. Back then was when I still was with Dur, we had like a huge team. And that you definitely know, like you know when you have like teammates around you, first of all in practice already, you push yourself forward. You can find out some more little details in the track that you can improve on. And definitely in the races, it helps to have teammates around you. And now with Max, obviously I have one of the best drivers in the world as my teammate, so definitely we learn off of each other. I can definitely give him some tips as like the race room the kind of race room driver, and he's always like one step ahead in terms of like finding pace, finding those little things where I can still learn a lot of stuff as well. So it definitely works out well with between us to push each other, and in the race oftentimes, like for example at Zandvoort, we didn't really have the opportunity now to work together because we were just in different starting positions. But I think in the future now, for the next couple of races, when we're actually like maybe behind each other on track, then we can definitely work together, which definitely helps comparing to the previous year when I was driving basically without a teammate. Makes it a bit harder to drive alone, not really knowing where's the pace, how much can I still extract out of the car. So definitely nice to have Max alongside me. Probably, one of the best teammates you can have to really push yourself.
You mentioned your old team, the DTM eSports team and the Falcon Sim Racing guys. I think you had an unlucky contact with one of your best friends, right?
Yeah, very unlucky. It was very nice to fight again against Lucas, obviously old teammate, good friend of mine. Now maybe also ex-friend after what happened. But no, we talked about afterwards. I obviously said sorry immediately. Hard battle throughout the second half of the race with him, and unfortunately, incident happened. Can always happen in like the heat of the moment like this. Obviously not what I want, and obviously also not what he wants. But yeah, can happen. I got the penalty for it, and we just continue on battling in the next rounds together.
You already mentioned Lausitzring. The next round will be different. Why? What can we expect from the next race on Saturday?
Always hard to say, really, but I think Lausitzring has a bit more opportunities to really go for overtakes, like especially turn one invites you to maybe dive down the inside, but then you really have a lot of opportunities since there's so much S's coming afterwards that you will always then have the better line on the outside and you will go back to the inside, and there's always this back and forth where you can really just force an overtake and go into an overtake and actually make it stick. Without being immediately basically declined like on Zandvoort. If you defend the inside there, you're basically set for defending the position. Whereas on Lausitzring, you just have so many more opportunities. Even after the S's in the beginning, you have this shortcut where you can also, very tricky corner, first of all, anyways, where you can always send it in and just make opportunities work. Good track for racing, in my opinion. It has always shown in the past in DTM eSports and also other championships on race room that Lausitzring is a really good track for racing. And combined now with the strategy calls that we can do with the 2 pit stops, I think it's going to be a great spectacle.
Okay, last question, Moritz. This year we have an on-site final, so the 20 best drivers will travel to the Nürburgring with 0 points. The 2 races on-site will decide the championship. What do you think about? Is this a fair solution? Is this something suits your passion or your way to compete, or what do you think we can expect?
I have kind of two opinions about it, like two opposite opinions. First of all, I really love like championships that go from round to round to round, where you then can fight each round for like points, and also then see at the end of the championship, hey, how many points do I still need to win the championship, or where I'm in the championship table. I love this kind of process and this kind of way of how to approach championships. This is obviously a little bit missing with this format that we have right now, but I think coming to an on-site final, especially because it's LAN, and then everything is reset there, everything fights for the same points, the same ground again. It makes it very exciting, because obviously it could also happen that you go to the last final event and the championship is basically decided already. So there's both sides. You can have it one time really exciting through a whole championship, but it can also be very boring afterwards in the last round, or you can have just a one final event where everything is reset, everyone has the same opportunities again to win the championship, which makes it really exciting. And I think it makes it even more so exciting when everyone is in the same place, when I can look left and right and actually see my competitors next to me. So I'm really looking forward to it. Hopefully I qualify. I think I should be able to make it, but it's going to be a lot of fun there, being at the Nürburgring and fighting at the LAN event for glory.
Exactly. So we hope to see you there. Thank you for your time, Moritz, and good luck for the race today.
Thank you, Chris.
Cheers to Chris Wackerbauer and Moritz Lerner there for filling the air. That's a solid run time we had on that interview. Great chat to jump in on, of course. Some of the things spoken about, the fact we've got that live event to look forward to, John. I mean, look, I can't wait for that as a season finale, seeing them all battle it out in person and such.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Of course, Moritz needs to get there first. He needs to stay out of some of these incidents like he had at Zandvoort and drop down the standings, because I believe it's the top 20 in the standings that go through. But of course, it's going to be awesome to have that event as a spectacle in person. It's something that sort of disappeared for a little while in sim racing, and it's great to see more events like that coming back. And it's going to be a spectacle, because DTM finales, there's something about a DTM season finale. Obviously, we're going to be at the Nürburgring, but having the Hockenheimring as the venue on circuit for the final one is going to be mega. Yeah. It's always exciting and spicy at the same time. Expicing, that's what we're going to go with.
Expicing indeed, as it was last season. Hockenheimring, that's the journey that we're going. We're getting there, obviously, in quite a few weeks' time. For cracking track, very, very difficult to navigate. You can see on here some of the tricky twists and turns. That opening sector, very difficult, rolling through that S section. Where you come out of turn 5, you're effectively on the back stretch of the tri-oval, and then you flick it back in through the mid-sector, and that awkward 10 and 11 sequence, John, so difficult to navigate.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of switchbacks here, and there's a lot of corners where you've got to be thinking constantly about carrying the speed, carrying the flow. And I think it's also tricky qualifying versus the race around the Lausitzring. Of course, some lines are ideal for qualifying and getting the fastest lap. You've got to be very smooth and patient, but you're leaving yourself open for an overtaking opportunity if you were to take that line. And so it is a surprisingly technical track. It may look semi-straightforward when you look at it, but so many times you think you've nailed a section, and then the next part of that section, you get it wrong, because there's so many different parts of the corner you need to analyze properly. It always creates exciting stuff, and it's just a big challenge, I think, for the drivers. Some of the curbs as well, Lewis, through some of the chicanes are very challenging indeed as well. One bad bounce could completely ruin your lap. And
very easy to do around here. Well, if you are bored of watching two people talking about racing, why don't we jump to the circuit now and go and have a look. Qualifying is underway here for the second round of the DTM eSports Championship in 2026. We heard from a little bit earlier on, Moritz Lerner, who we're looking at here through that awkward final complex of corners, and out back onto the start-finish straight where it's so incredibly wide. I mean, I've seen plenty of pictures from DTM in real life where they're 3-4 wide across the line. We're going to be seeing that a lot in person when they come racing here in a few weeks' time.
Certainly are. And of course, what you just saw there with Lerner jumping back the line, the way it works is that you finish your qualifying lap, you can very quickly reset your car, the corners before the start-finish line, and go again. That's what you will see throughout this session. And speaking of Lerner, he's put it straight on the front row there, just under a 10 off Florian Hasta. We had an absolute disaster at Hasta said with this. It's part of last round at Zandvoort, but he's on goal score car on a 119.4.
Yeah, there's a few drivers that did not have a particularly enjoyable experience a week ago at the season opener at Zandvoort. This driver had a fantastic run, took pole position, and a very well-deserved victory for Team Vitality. The driver that chased him down, though, Manuel Vera not in the session at present. We don't believe he'll be joining us tonight. That's a bit of a shame for Vera, who was extremely fast. Could be a couple of technical issues on there. We have a couple coming into the night. And Max Benneker as well, we believe, also not on the list. We'll update you with that as swift as we can. Maybe later on in the evening you might be able to see something on the Race Room social media, as if anyone is missing as to maybe why. Tomas Ribeiro, 0 Point Racing, works his way into the final complex though.
Very DTM eSports, isn't it? Less than 5 tenths covering the top 16. Yeah, that's what you're going to get here. It's so competitive. And Ribeiro right now, the man on form, of course, on Race Room this year. We talked about him a lot at Zandvoort, and he's right up there again, Lewis, obviously sitting 4th in the standings following that opening round, just behind Benneker, Vera and Ottaviani, which means he goes into this race essentially in a net 3rd, with Vera unfortunately not appearing to be here at the moment. So this is a good opportunity for Ribeiro. Let's see where he goes with this qualifying that lap though, as he crosses the line and he goes to pole. 119.3, fantastic stuff. Benneker just behind.
Yeah, we found Benneker. He is there. That's fine. We're all right. He popped his way onto the list, almost under pole position, but we're going to get that a little bit this evening, at least here in the qualifying session, where everyone has the circuit to themselves and then can escape and then get themselves back out. We'll see all those times flood their way in. So as much as anyone's looking like they're on a great lap time, suddenly it will be over before you know it. Benneker will be across the line to begin a lap. John, talk us through this opening sector.
Yeah, really, really difficult to spot your point into turn 1. You've got to watch out for that curb on the inside, bouncing you offline. Just keep 2 wheels inside the white line, and you're right, left, all about your placement over the curbs here. Hopefully hook the car in, but watch your exit again, because you're straight into another long right-hander, which leads into an even slower left-hander. As you can see, it is relentless, left, right, all the time. You've got to think about the future as you drive around this circuit. It widens out, of course, as you head on stretch here, but then you're quickly into a long, slow left-hander. Great overtaking opportunity here into turn 6. Power out of there, and immediately once again over to the left, because you're heading into the longest right-hander in history. It just never ends. You always feel like you're losing time. It's a little bit like the opening sector of Oschersleben there, but you've just got to be so patient with the throttle and hope that you've got your right on the way in. Then we're coming towards the end of the lap now. So turn 8, left-hander. It's a kind of pretty average corner, that one. Too many redeeming features about it, but then you've got this right-hand sweeper, and unfortunately Benneker's bailed, but you just had, after that corner, you actually bailed into exactly in the same spot. So you've got turn 10 here, the sharp right, which then leads into another sharp left onto the banking, and this is all about your exit speed if you're going to start another lap here. Benneker will not have long to put in another lap time, but he's currently sitting in a pretty strong 3rd.
Did get an update on Manuel Vera, by the way. One of the things in the changes for DTM eSports, it's not just a closed-off championship anymore. We are open. If you are taking part on Race Stream, you can come along and take part in the DTM eSports Championship. Manuel Vera did not have a high enough rating to take part in Split 1 this evening. I was talking to Gianmarco Fiducci, driver who's obviously raced in this championship an awful lot over the last few years and contended for top honours. He was saying that one of the main reasons that he's not competing because he doesn't have a high enough rating to remain in Split 1 consistently. Manuel Vera has come across that as well, and it's one of those interesting things where I'm sure he took part in Split 2 a little bit earlier on the night to score some decent points, but be probably a little bit frustrated with that. That is the nature of the competition at the moment, though. You've got to keep that rating high.
Yeah, it is a tough one, but that is the way the system works. And at the end of the day, Vera needed a higher rating. He needed to do some more daily races on Race Room to build that rating up. Easier said than done, of course, because these ratings are all incredibly high, which means you need to finish at a very high position in the splits to do so. We do see some new names in tonight. The likes of Marco Page, currently sitting P6. He wasn't at Zandvoort, so unfortunately Vera misses out. But it's just more motivation, hopefully, for Vera to increase his rating. 30 seconds to go. One thing I'm noticing, Lewis, is there's a lot of Germans in the top 8. I think 7 of the top 8 positions are Germans. Now, I wonder if a lot of these tracks in this championship are German, not all of them. But this track, Lausitzring, is a little bit more rare on an international schedule. It's not a sort of track like Zandvoort, which you see in all these different series. And I do wonder if that sort of suits the Germans, who are maybe more used to driving around this track.
Maybe. There is certainly that, but then obviously you've taken part in DTM eSports a little bit, you probably have some experience around it. Bo Dixon across the line, popping 2 wheels onto the wall. Fantastic. Session's coming to a close. Tim Yarshall looks like he'll be grabbing the pole position for the second night. Qualified in 7th position back in Zandvoort. Tomas Ribeiro keeping up his excellent qualifying. Qualified in 3rd back in Zandvoort. Moves 1 position higher than that up to the front row of the grid. Julian Kunze. That was, unfortunately, not the lap he was looking for. Down the order. 24th position for a driver who we know has fantastic speed. But, yeah, great lap from Tim Yarshall, obviously champion of a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah, talented driver, and it'd be good to see him get a season underway after what was a pretty shocking start at Zandvoort last time out, relatively speaking. Other notable names there, Florian Haase right near the front. Good to see after the disaster of Zandvoort. So we are yet to see what Haase's race pace strategy will do. So that's going to be intriguing to keep an eye on. And Maximilian Benneke, once again, sitting there in P3, collecting the points. Obviously, it's only qualifying, but it's a good sign for Benneke in terms of putting together a championship campaign here, Lewis, because clearly this is a man we know is talented, we know is experienced, but also he's proven consistency on race room. So very exciting.
I know having spoken to a few people that even on Moritz Lerner, who's streaming, Max Benneke, I think, is putting out his own stream of this event and stuff for the Mouse team, that going into the opening round, Benneke was like, right, well, I'm here to score a few decent points, but expecting Moritz Lerner to be the faster of the two. That has not been the case in the opening 2 rounds of this championship, despite Moritz Lerner's extensive experience here on the race room platform. Max Benneke is, he's adapted to it brilliantly. I know he's well versed with driving GTs and stuff like that. I know he's raced a little bit before, but really is adapting well to this platform.
He absolutely is. Benneke and Lerner, what a team you've got there. You've got the man who we would say is just a race room expert and is always at the top, always consistent, puts in the hard yards in Moritz Lerner. And I'm very much expecting him to be right at the front going on throughout the season. But yeah, Benneke at the moment is just slightly having the edge. We've seen it at Zandvoort. Obviously, it's very, very early days. But Benneke has proven he's good on race room, he's consistent on race room, and he's only going to get better, Lewis. You'd have to say someone like Maximilian Benneke, who's got more of a kind of widespread of experience across different, less focused, quite possibly has a higher ceiling, more to learn. Saying that, there's not much more you can do than putting it in the top 3. So yeah, fascinating to see how that unfolds throughout the season, if there an inter-team rivalry spawns there. But I would expect Moritz Lerner to be pushing him in a few races later on.
Definitely. Well, we're moments away from another 1 hour race. Should be a lot of fun. This one, Tim Yarshall starting for the front alongside Tomás Ribeiro. Great opportunity for the Portuguese driver to steal away the victory. Got a couple of minutes before we get to that point. Thinking about some of those drivers that are towards the front there. Your Yarshall's, Ribeiros, Benneke's, Haase's, Lerner's, who's up there as well. Where are you looking, John, for a victory to come from? And do you think that it's going to come through that strategy game and playing those 2 pit stops as well as you can?
It certainly is. I was going to talk about that, actually. It's 2 mandatory stops, a 60-minute race for those of you who weren't with us last week. So it's not necessarily about conserving tyres too much. Every single pit stop is a mandatory tyre stop, so you have to take new tyres. It means that, generally speaking, the tyres are only going to do 20 to 30 minutes of running, assuming a regular strategy. But that does allow drivers something a bit different, right? To be able to pit really early on in the race, save a pit stop till right near the end, undercuts, overcuts, getting out of traffic. There's all sorts of scope to do interesting things here. So I think this sort of setup for the race is going to suit the drivers who are tactically astute. Drivers with a lot of experience. Tim Yarshall, very difficult to look too far past him. He's shown the skill he's got in these cars on this platform before. He's done it, and he's right at the front. He needs the points, so I'm expecting Yarshall to put that Falcon team is also stacked full of talent as well. So I'm expecting a few Falcon cars to be towards the front. Keeping an eye out on Tomás Ribeiro, we've said it already. He is the man in form on race room for me. I'm not surprised in a good spot at Zandvoort, but for a while it maybe wasn't looking like he was going to finish as high up as he did. Clearly came on strong the longer the race went on. So I would expect if Tomás Ribeiro shows anything like the race pace he's shown throughout the year on race room, he's going to be in with a shout.
Yeah, obviously we'll be seeing how that race start unfolds, seeing how the opening few corners unfold, which is going to be dramatic. It is obviously quite narrow in that opening sector, and I'm sure drivers will already be thinking, even now, before the race has begun, about when they're making their 2 mandatory pit stops that they must make. The first one has to come within the pit window, which opens about 15-20 minutes into the race, and then the second one can come at any point after that. Now, last round, John, we saw a lot of people basically copying the strategies, especially from that top grouping between Ottaviano, between Vera and between Benneke. I don't think we'll be necessarily seeing the same thing here.
It's definitely going to be a bit different around the Lausitzring, just simply because the nature of the circuit makes it a little bit easier to throw a move on someone. You're not as much in a train. I think what was happening is everyone was reacting at Zandvoort, right? We saw Vera pit. The next lap, Ottaviani, who was ahead of him, straight into the pits. What was amazing me was how consistent the pit stop times were. Everyone was spending exactly the same amount of time on pit road. They were clearly very well practiced. And then when they came out the pits, it would be exactly as it was before the pit stops. Now, at Lausitzring, obviously we could see reactive pit stops. If someone behind you goes for the undercut, maybe you're going to come out and cover them, but it's more difficult to cover around here, I think, than Zandvoort, and it's less of, you're going to see less train style racing, I think, around here. Even in the early laps, Lewis, you've got the opening sector, for example, left, right, constantly. There's no inside or outside line here. You just have to put your car somewhere and hope that that side of the track ends up, going in your favor, because it's all over the place.
Yeah, indeed. I've raced the Lausitzring a couple of times where things get a little bit narrow and a little bit difficult into that opening corner. You'll see quite a lot during the race where people will try dummy moves down into the opening corner where it is so tight. You don't really want to dive into it. It's a really big braking zone into that opening corner. And so you've got to be careful. You've got to be patient. And I'm sure the drivers will be initially thinking about how they're going to do that, even on the very brief formation up we're going to get. They'll start in that final complex of corners where they'll just get themselves ready and get some of the looks here of the Lausitzring. Great overtaking opportunity here at the end of the back stretch where everything, whilst wide, still gets a little bit narrow. Work their way onto the start-finish straight. It's Tim Yarshall, it's Tomas Ribeiro, Max Benneker and Florian Haase at the opening couple of rows. We'll get ourselves ready and we'll stick an hour onto the clock. 2 pit stops ahead, and round 2 of the 2026 DTM eSports Championship is about to be go. Tim Yarshall, are we waiting for those green lights? And we are racing down into the opening complex. Couple of cars in the background already trying to switch for position. But Tim Yarshall will lead us. Oh, he's not going yet. He's waiting for it. I think they're actually going to be going round for a formation lap. Never mind. I was getting ready for that to be full racing, but clearly race control said we're doing a formation lap here, boys. I
was expecting the full race there, Lewis, as well. I was really expecting them to be going, and I was wondering what was going on there. So we were opposite last time. So one day we'll get it right.
Yeah, look, it is what it is. I was ready for that. Yeah, it's fine. But we obviously there's been a couple of technical issues and we're rolling through it, but we're figuring it out as we go. So we have a manual formation up, which does mean that we lose probably a couple of minutes of the race. And for Tim Yarshall, I did think it was a very long run down into the opening corner, but clearly we're all right.
Yeah, for sure. It was a bizarre one, wasn't it? But it gives us more of a chance, I guess, to have a look at the grid here. You've got Yarshall, Ribeiro, Benneker, Haase, Lerner, your top 5. Marco Page, of course, one to watch. Lewis, starting from P6. We didn't see him last time, but we know the experience that this driver has. And again, another one like Benneker, done it across multiple platforms as well, has Page. So he's got a vast array of experience here. Gronewald, P7, another driver who was penalised, we believe, in the first round. Got a better result than his championship standings show. So that's going to be another driver who's looking to score as many points as possible to make up for lost ground there. And you've got Roche, Oliveira and Houben. It does look like they're doing a sort of manual formation lap here, Lewis, just to make sure everyone's sorted. So that explains the confusion. The timer, as you can see at the top left, has started. So the race is technically green, but of course all these drivers behaving themselves, and we're doing a manual formation lap before we get going.
Attempt number 2, and I'll hopefully not make quite the fool of myself. We're all right. DTM eSports began with an excellent victory from Alessandro Ottaviani, but now the championship leader right in the middle of the field. Tim Yarshall, the champion of a couple of years ago, will head the field into the final complex of corners. Lucas Müller, the champion of last season, will start from just outside the top 10. No question marks to be how clean is this start going to be. Tim Yarshall, Tomas Ribeiro, Max Benneker, Florian Haase, Lerner, Pejc, Gronewald, Roche, Oliveira and Nicholas Houben, the top 10. 1 hour racing around one of the most recognisable circuits in Germany as Tim Yarshall at the front of the field for Falcon Sim Racing and waiting for the opportunity to go down into the opening corner. Incredibly tight the left-hander will be as we wait for the line. Coming up now, the race start. Tim Yarshall is leading the field. We are green here at the Lausitzring. And there's Tim Yarshall with a perfect start, covering over Tomas Ribeiro. Max Benneker straight down the inside for Maus, getting aggressive at the opening corner. The big Mercedes around the outside of Ribeiro was trying to hold firm against Benneker, but he sent it straight around the outside. He was on the podium back in Zandvoort. And Benneker makes a mark and up to second position for him here today. Ribeiro under pressure from now, the teammate of Max Benneker, but there was no moves happening there, and the 0-point car will hold on. Lerner and Haase now side by side in 4th and 5th.
Into turn 6 then, and it's line astern for the front row here. Mouse, what a great start it was for that team, up to 2nd and 4th with Benica and Lerner respectively. Great to see some shoulder barging going on there between Benica and Ribeiro through the opening sector. Nothing bad, I don't think. It was just great, close racing. Obviously Benica coming out on top there, ahead of the Portuguese driver. Hasse down to 5th, now under pressure from Gronewald around the outside in the white BMW.
Yeah, big break, seeing if Gronewald can do it around this part of the circuit. The thing is that inside line, that midpoint of the corner really is favoured and not too far behind as Marco Page, a couple of positions behind his BS competition teammate Kaiki Oliveira. You've got TC eSports up there with Jack Keithley. You'll see the distinctive blue, gold, bit of black on there as well as Thibaut Courtois' eSports team. On to the start-finish straight to complete the opening lap. It's Tim Yarshall from Benica, Ribeiro, Lerner and Haas at the top 5. You can see that defensive line coming in from the Audi behind. It's Roche defending from Oliveira at the back end of the top 10. Oliveira's looking to the outside as we've got here. Gronewald's in a little bit too deep. Florian Haas will come back up and under. And now Marco Payet going straight around the outside of the second corner. Fantastic stuff and a great move from Marco Payet.
I didn't know which battle to watch there, Lewis. It was all happening. Page, Gronewald, Oliveira, Roche and Keithley 3 wide into the first corner. This is the sort of racing we didn't see at Zandvoort, of course, because there's the space here to run 2 or even 3 wide, but it gets very tight very quickly, so you've got to sort yourself out. Looked like Gronewald just went in a little bit too deep. Page back underneath and back up to P6. But fascinating stuff so far, and drivers seeming to be keeping it pretty clean at the moment. We've got 28 drivers all separated by less than 10 seconds, so no big disasters early on.
Look at the army of Porsche from 15th to 21st. Alessandro Ottaviani, the champion leader, leading the train. He's got his teammate in Hani Yovski directly behind him for the Vitality team. Yeah, we'll see that one a few back from where we are. As you can see on the back of NeedRacing.com, Turka Häkkinen finished in 5th position in the opening round of the championship. There's a couple of slides coming in here through what is effectively the penultimate complex on this track. I will say in my times of driving the Lausitzring, never have I found the flow through those double hairpin sequence. Reminds me a lot of the double hairpin sequence at Indianapolis back in the day. It's rush defence here from Jack Keithley to the outside.
Under, and he gets one wheel just about overlap, but not enough from Keithley, who remains in 10th. He's going to now look to the outside, or what will become the outside, for the turn 4 right-hander, and you can see there he's just going to get muscled out, but as long as you can keep a nose in, then you get the inside for turn 5, and this is it, switchback after switchback. So you've just got to hold on in there, Lewis, keep your line, and if you can just about keep an overlap going, there's a good chance you'll come out on top, just as Keithley's done there ahead of Roche. And immediately Roche comes under pressure from Lukas Müller, of course, reigning champion here at the DTM eSports Championship in that Falcon BMW just behind. You were saying there, Ottaviani further back in the field for this one, 15th and 16th for the 2 Vitality drivers, and it just shows the strength and depth here, Lewis, because you've got Ottaviani, of course, winning last time out, sitting in P15 right now. Well, Benica's consistency really paying off at the moment in these early stages.
And there comes a potential move right around the outside. Nicholas Halbert trying to defend from Jonas Vanna, the Alpha 1 by SX car. Outside, he's going to go into the penultimate corner, but can't quite get the move done there. Leads to the inside for what is effectively the final. And off of that last hairpin into the banking of what is effectively the 3rd corner on the oval. Jonas Vanna will be able to get through. So Halbert drops back. That's actually going to allow Lukas Müller to get on the attack of Roche without the fear of being attacked himself on the start-finish straight. Incredibly long it is. And there is going to be a move for 11th position, we believe. Halben to the outside, getting aggressive here for 12th. Can't quite do it. Jonas Vanna, they're still side by side in this opening complex. Incredible stuff between the BMW and the Porsche. Outside line for Jonas Vanna will come the inside line as we head out here onto the mid-stretch. And there was a lot of work here in this fight that finally comes to a close, but is it completely over?
Pick a side, any side, isn't it, Lewis? I mean, it's just relentless here. You've got to keep in it. And it is finally over because Vanner does hold on there ahead of Hauben, who will now be under pressure from Turka Häkkinen. And we've seen the pace from Turka so far this season, not only in the opening round at Zandvoort, but probably more noticeably taking the victory in the pre-season race at the Red Bull Ring. So this is another driver with a lot of talent and a bit between his teeth. So expect Turka to be on the back of Hauben very, very shortly. But yeah, that opening sector is just so good for racing. I honestly don't know which side you'd rather be on. I guess you want to just be on the inside for the 5th and final switchback, which I guess is the inside for turn 1 as well. So it'll be interesting to see if drivers start doing that tactically, or if any drivers try to cause a surprise and throw it around the outside.
7 races this season. We could absolutely see 7 different winners from those 7 races, 8 if you include the pre-season round. And yeah, it just shows the competitiveness of DTM eSports in 2026 that I mean, you and I can quite easily look at the 28 car field and think, yeah, they could be a race winner, yeah, they could be a race winner. Turk Hakkinen will look to the outside here of Nicholas Albon, straight around the outside he's going to go, and how will it be like? Not side by side through here again. This time he's on the other side of the circuit, but Turk Hakkinen's gone full send through that opening complex to complete the move before we get into the right-left that takes us back out onto this mid-stretch. And brilliant stuff from the Finnish man right there, and up into 13th position. Albon will be feeling the pressure from Alessandro Ottaviani, the championship leader, in 15th.
Yeah, Keitzel threw on Wisniewski in the background as well. Not sure quite what happened there. It looked like Wisniewski slowed down a little bit, either letting him have the position, maybe to avoid a penalty, or maybe he missed a gear. I'm not entirely sure there, but Keitzel either way, throwing it down the inside on the back stretch and moving up into P18. And it looks like Ottaviani's looking racy now, diving down the inside of his fellow Porsche driver, taking the position from Hauben, so he does indeed move through the championship leader and previous race winner up into 14th now, and on the back of Turkka Hakkinen. These two are a couple of seconds back from Vanner and Muller up ahead, so they're either going to have to work together here, or Ottaviani's going to have to try and get the move done. But as you say, Lewis, they're so closely matched, anyone can take the win here, so it's not as if, just because Ottaviani's our championship leader, it doesn't mean he's going to have the edge over these other drivers. He's going to have to really work for this.
But then we're starting to move towards the pit sequence where we'll see the drivers come into the pit lane. And really for Alessandro Ottaviani, a bit of weaving there between this group, running down to the opening corner. We'll be sat there thinking, right, how do I get some clean air? How do I get out of this fight? Is it staying in it, getting to the front of it and then trying to pull away from it? Or is the easy way to come into the pit lane? But already sitting 10 seconds off of the race lead. You can tell that Alessandro Ottaviani's chances of going after the victory are all but done for the day. Speaking of those chances, Max Benneker right onto the rear end of Tim Yarshall. The two of these are about to go toe-to-toe. It's the Audi R8 of Yarshall leading, the BMW M4 of Max Benneker, the AMG of Tomas Ribeiro in third. It's very tight between this top grouping. Four of them there, because you cannot count out Moritz Lerner in fourth.
Just about to say, if I was Lerner right now, I would be considering a stop, to be honest, Lewis. You've got this kind of 4-car train, but Lerner not quite able to hang on. Maybe he needs to follow these guys to try and stay on the pace. But alternatively, you could say if you're at the back of a train right now, you're considering coming in for an early stop. There's no need to if you're at the front of a train, because you're risking losing that track position. But the likes of Lerner, I wouldn't be too shocked if we see him in early. Benneker's got the run though on Yarshall, slipstreaming the Audi, and he's going to look to the inside, is he? Nope. Yarshall covers the inside line, so Benneker's going to look to the outside. Will he try the up and under here? Switches back to the left, Yarshall goes in a little bit deep, and this could work out for Benneker here. He's going to eventually have the inside line by the time we get through to turn 5. Is he in fact going to get the move done before then? He is. He slots in front of Yarshall. Bit of contact, but Benneker through turn 3 takes the lead, and Tomas Ribeiro and Lerner all of a sudden are right there too.
Brilliant move there from Max Benneker to take over the race lead, hunting for a victory, for his first victory in DTM eSports. Of course, we have seen Mouse in the championship before. That was back when Moritz Lerner did the 2024 season. Now we're seeing it in the hands of Max Benneker, who leads the field here for the first time in his DTM eSports career. I get the feeling that was it was a well-earned move, but I think we're a long way from calling him a race winner here, and he's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders. Tim Yarshall will certainly not enjoy the fact that he's been overtaken there. 3 Germans versus 1 Portuguese driver, Tomas Ribeiro, who time and time again has been the form man, at least when it comes to the rank side of things here. On race stream, sits not too far behind in that 0-point car.
There certainly is a long way to go here, Lewis, but Benneker's not the man you want running away from you at the front. That is an intimidating name just because of the experience he's got. Keep an eye here on Ribeiro. He's going to look to do exactly the same on Yarshall. Yarshall's actually gone in deep. He's gone in too deep, and he's not meaning... I don't think he was meaning to make an overtake there, Lewis. He's just gone in deep trying to defend, and Benneker has actually been hit up the rear. So Yarshall's going to have to be careful. He doesn't do that too often, but it worked for him, you know, either way. Lucky, I think, that he didn't turn Benneker into a spin there. But Ribeiro, of course, then has to slot back into third, and Lerner's all over the back of them again. So that could have been much worse as a situation there heading into turn 1. It looks like Yarshall trying to brake late, but just doesn't quite have that Audi under as much control as the BMW and Mercedes around it.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of an oops there, I think. You know, oopsie daisy, just went a little bit sent, but you know, nothing too major. It's fine. We're all carrying on. 4 cars within a second here at the top end of round 2, and okay, Payet sitting 2.7 seconds off. See if the BS competition driver can maybe do something to close in on the quartet that leads the field. We're approaching the pit window. Again, just we've got 2 pit stops ahead of us. I mean, you can take the second stop anywhere after the third. We'll come back around the second because look at all this. Bo Dixon getting stuck behind Enzo Filippo and Matej Mikiewicz. Julian Kunze at the front of this. Now Florian Spiegel's right onto the rear end. We'll look straight down the inside of the penultimate corner. BMW against BMW behind Enzo Filippo, and Spiegel will get through potentially here on Bo Dixon. He's got the inside though, does Dixon into the final corner, and Dixon will just about keep Spiegel at bay. But what was happening down there? Mikiewicz, Kunze, Dixon all involved, 3 wide running down into the end of the second sector. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, you gave me a rope there and the producer yanked it straight out of my hand because I have no idea what you were going to ask me. I got so entrenched in that battle there heading into turn 8. 4 cars. I'm amazed they all made it through. I think it was maybe Kunze at the front that almost didn't make it through. Very, very sideways, but thankfully managed to hold on. You can just see though how much good racing this track encourages. And it's not easy. It's still tight and twisty. There's not a huge amount of space, but the way the flow goes with this circuit, it really does encourage those sorts of moves. And I mean, someone's going to be facing the wrong way at some point. We did see a lot of incidents at Zandvoort, but generally speaking it was later in the race when these drivers started getting frustrated. We're only 15 minutes into this one. I think pit stops are going to play a pivotal role. I still think Lerner should consider pitting Lewis. Honestly, looking at the battling ahead, looking at Yarshall, Benneke, and speaking of the devil, in goes Lerner. So let's see what happens now.
Well, I was going to ask you, when would you potentially think about coming into the pit lane, and how do you think that one would work? Well, I mean, there you go. You've answered that one. Lerner very close. 45 minutes left to go in the race. I thought the pit window was supposed to open after 15 minutes of racing, but maybe it is set up slightly different. There's just 2 mandatory stops. Again, that's something for the for race control to deal with. It's all, in a sense, that side is automated through the game, so I wouldn't necessarily worry about that too much. But regardless, we do have a few takers into the pit lane, leaving Tim Yarshall and Thomas Ribeiro. Top 2.
Very good point, Lewis. Hadn't considered that. So I think maybe you might be right about the pit window, but the timer maybe only starts when you actually complete your stop. And by the time those guys actually stopped and took their tyres, we had already hit the 15-minute mark. So it might just be very good tactical play, and the mouse guys taking a risk and knowing how long the pit lane is. It could be something like that. These guys are very experienced drivers. You know, if Lerner and Benneke are both making that pit stop at that moment, you can guarantee they'll have planned that out and they're not going to both make the same silly mistake. Maybe guarantee is a strong word. Look how close they are coming out though. To be fair, Benneke was first, Lerner was fourth coming into the pits, and by the time they reached the actual pit lane, they were neck and neck. So that just shows you that this is anyone's race from that top 4 group, and Lerner really showing his experience now. If he can hang on to the back of Benneke, they could either be sitting 1-2 after this, or they could be sitting 3-4.
Yeah, I think they'll actually be praying that Tim Yarshall and Thomas Ribeiro weren't going to come into the pit lane. Unfortunately for Mouse, they do. This means that it's going to be very close. We know that we're going to get some side-by-side here between these 2 and the other 2 that are currently around the circuit at the moment. Marco Pajic will take over the race lead. Kaiki Oliveira's getting quite close to the back of Tobias Gronewold. But at the moment it is Pajic leading from Haas, from Gronewold, Oliveira and Keithley. Of course, those lot yet to stop. We'll keep an eye on where the Mouse duo come out comparatively to the 0 point in the Falcon car. We've just entered pit lane from the race lead.
Yeah, it's going to be very close, based on what we learned at Zandvoort and how quick these drivers are. Is Benneke coming in? No, I thought for a second he's coming into the pits again. He is coming into the pits again.
Benneke's just got a drive-through penalty, we believe, for speeding in the pit lane. So, an awkward moment there, unfortunately, for Max Benneke. It's so easy to do. One of the most catastrophic errors, though, that you can make is getting a drive-through for speeding in the pit lane while serving your penalty for driving too quickly in the pit lane. Tim Yarshall then will leave pit lane. He's got Thomas Ribeiro a little bit behind, so a little bit of a faster stop. Where is Moritz Lerner? Right there.
Wow.
Oh, like a horror film. That was a proper jump scare.
Slotting into the middle as well, that's one thing I didn't call. I said they're either going to be first and second or third and fourth, and Lerner straight into the middle as if he created a gap out of absolutely nothing. Disaster for Benneke. I said the 2 of these Mouse drivers are so experienced, they're not going to both make the same mistake. Well, it turns out one of them made a mistake. It was just a different mistake, and that was Maximilian Benneke. This is where Lerner's race room prowess really comes in, because all of a sudden he finds himself in P2, and all that stuff we said before the race about Lerner struggling, not struggling, but a little bit off his teammate, throw that out the window, because Lerner's in the box seat right now.
He's well in contention for victory this afternoon. A bit of contact there between Julian Kunze and Matej Mikiewicz, just ahead of Max Benneke, who will be a little bit frustrated. He's out of position, but you cannot let that red mist take over. You've got to take control here. It's a long championship in the build-up towards that final couple of rounds in person. We go to the Nürburgring in person. Tim Yarshall, we look back from 13th position. I mean, look, Max Benneker from 25th position can still get a solid race result. At this point, it's going to be, well, after the pit stops have all been completed for everyone, probably will be around. Oh, he did get a second drive-through. What did I just say, John? You cannot get a drive-through for serving a penalty for getting a speeding in the pit lane. Like, incredible stuff.
It's rookie stuff from Maximilian Benneker. It's the sort of stuff I would do, and that's not a compliment to Benneker.
I've done it.
Flustered. Or maybe just misjudging something, and maybe not sure where the line is. I'm not sure, but these guys put in so much effort to practice and prepare for these races. It's the sort of mistake that you just cannot afford to be doing. And on round 2 of the championship, it's still early doors, but you would think you would just leave a little bit of margin. I am surprised that Benneker's done that, but hey, it happens.
Oh. No, sorry. I've seen. He's actually. Let me hold fire. Let me hold fire. I don't believe that was a second drive-through. Let me just.
Was he taking a second stop?
I saw him stationary in his box. I wonder if he's doing both the stops now. He is stationary in his box, so maybe it wasn't a second drive-through. They're trying something different on strategy. Where, because to be fair, if he's done a second stop, he'll probably be in and around this group, right? And so we'll do. We'll hold fire. We'll hold fire on judgment. All right.
Yeah, we
apologies to the Mouse team.
But it's still it's still a crazy strategy. I'm not saying it's a bad strategy. It might work out, and Benneker gets clean track from this. But it's 40 minutes on the one stop with the same fuel and tyres. It's not the optimal strategy if you were to plan it out in clean air. Of course, it does give him more clean air, and we know how quick Benneker is. He was leading the race, right? So potentially this just pulls him out of all of the traffic he'd have to think about beforehand, and now he can just basically do a 40-minute wonder stint. And we've seen those before from Benneker, but he is 28th and last at the moment, of course. So we're not going to know where he plays into the field really until 10 minutes to go.
But he's 28th and last, but importantly, look at that gap ahead of him, right? He's
Exactly.
28th and last, but he's got no one around him. So he is just driving around by himself. Now that we all calm down here in the commentary booth, me mainly, you start to understand that obviously there's going to be clean air ahead, and that will probably last for the next 15 to 20 minutes, depending on when the others will stop. But he'll probably jump a load of those portions that he would have had to have fought his way through by just lapping by himself, trying to rescue a better result. Apologies for the idea that Max Benneker might have got 2 drive-through penalties stacked on top of each other. I only say, I've done it, but Benneker's a vastly superior driver to myself. We'll see where he ends up. I still maintain, if he didn't get a second penalty, that a top 10 is absolutely possible. And when this championship point system really rewards consistency, I think that would actually be, relatively speaking, fun.
I think you're right, but you've got to look around at the competition here as well. I mean, Ribeiro sitting 4th in the championship right now. You can see now on the coattails of Lerner and Yarshall up ahead. Yes, there's a heck of a long way to go, and someone like Tomas Ribeiro with this field, we expect him to be towards the front every weekend, but at the same time, towards the front could be 15th, because you could be 2 tenths off and be 15th, right? So it's a long way to go. What I'm intrigued by is now you've got Ottaviani further back in the pack than you might expect. Currently P16, I think he's a net, maybe 13th, something like that. You've got, obviously, Vera not unfortunately making split 1 on this occasion. And you've got Benneker dropping down, you've got Kusanevsky down in 20th as well. So it's just incredible to see such a big change up in the order here. Kiko Oliveira will be looking good in the championship now, sitting P9. He was up there in the early rounds. And of course, Ribeiro, who I've talked about, the man who, going into the season, I would have said is not in any way a dark horse, just an absolute, guarantee as one of the favourites, suddenly looking strong here. And he's going to come out of this one looking very pretty. But of course, 37 minutes to go. Anything can happen. We even said earlier we had to calm down about Benneker having already won this race, because now that he was in front. And look at now, he's 28th and last. So long way to go. Anything can happen. Keinzel and Spiegel still to pit. We've got Philip Drace in the pits as we speak. So these leaders are slowly shuffling their way back towards the front of the field.
Back in touch there in the opening sector from Tim Yarshall. This is back to Alessandro Ottaviani down the inside of Tim Roche at the opening corner, and Roche will be able to hang on in the Alpha 1xSX car. Be a little bit disappointed there for Alessandro Ottaviani. Clearly Vitality don't have the speed around here that they're finding in that portion they found back at Circus Zandvoort in the Netherlands a week ago, and now trying to battle with some of the finer pickings of the championship. That's just how it goes. we said it before at the previous round how Manuel Vera, right, last season was pretty much outside the top 10 for the entire season. We went to the Red Bull Ring and then suddenly was a podium contender. And that will be the same thing this season, where some drivers will match circuits a lot. Some cars will match circuits that we go to more so than others. And you always have to play the long game. You want to pick a car that works on certain circuits, because the last thing you want is to pick a car that only works on one proper track really, really well, and then not nail that one track, and then the rest of the season's a chore.
You're absolutely right, and that's why you can't read too much into early rounds of the championship either, especially Spiegel dive into the pits, because of course there is balance of performance in play here on Race Room, so every car should, over the course of the season, work out fairly evenly. And you know, you can tell that probably is successful based on the fact that you have teammates in some situations picking different cars to each other. So Yarshall, of course, in the Audi, not matching up with some of his Falcon teammates who've gone for the other cars. So that proves that it's down to driver personal preference, fixed setup as well in these things, so you cannot set them up to suit your specific driving style. You pick the car that you like, but you're going to have strong moments and weak moments throughout the season. It was pretty close, I have to say, at Zandvoort between everyone, but Porsches ended up 1 and 2 on top of the field, and all of a sudden now you've got all of the Porsches other than, well, Kensel, who's not pitted, you've got all of the Porsches from Ottaviani down, with wingman Yayovsky in close pursuit, so it clearly isn't a Porsche track. Don't panic, I'm sure the Porsche tracks will come back around.
Oh, I mean, you think this circuit or even Zandvoort's been close, bordering frustratingly close. A bit of championship where it's, you know, you qualify 6-7 tenths off and you're basically outside the top 20 until the back of the Suns. Next round, we're going to the Norris Ring. It's in over a month's time. But the Norris Ring is 4 corners. I actually rate the Norris Ring. I think Norris Ring is great fun, but it is 4 corners, and always in this championship it is brutally close. Keinzel into the pit lane, then relinquishes the race lead back over to Tim Yarshall, and so this trio become that fight for the top spots. We said about Marco Pajic a little bit earlier on, he's dropped a further couple of seconds off the race lead, now sits 5 off of it. Alessandro Ottaviani still trying to get past Tim Rowe. Aggressive at the opening corner, but kept it within track limits. Alessandro Ottaviani did not complete the move though, and now he could be passed by his teammate Erhan Yayovsky, the Macedonian, forcing his way past his teammate to the outside as they go back towards turns 5 and 6. Erhan Yayovsky will get past Alessandro Ottaviani. Nicholas Halban also involved, could well get his way past the Italian as well.
He certainly could. Ottaviani going to go in deep here to turn 6, and he's going to potentially hang on to that position because he will of course have the inside for turn 7. Interesting choice from Ottaviani going into turn 1 there, taking the outside line. I really did think he would try a switchback like we've seen pulled off multiple times already in this race. I did say earlier, is anyone going to try the outside line? He tried it, but it was never going to work because Roche missed his braking point, locked up, was always going to run Ottaviani wide regardless, I would presume, and unfortunately it just forced him off the circuit, so it's not worked out for the Italian. Moritz Lerner now in for his second stop of the day, so pulls out that train once again, leaves Yarshall and Ribeiro to drive together out on circuit. You can see them there on the right hand side, so we'll keep an eye on that one in the following laps. But yeah, interesting decision from Ottaviani to go outside Lewis. I really did think he would try a switchback. Maybe he'll have to learn from that one and, you know, do something different with 33 minutes to go.
Yeah, I mean, there's still plenty of time left in this race, and obviously drivers pitting now. You might sit there and think, well, the tyre's going to be all right. Yeah, this isn't F1, don't worry about it. The tyres, they would be fine for the whole hour, and when they come into the pit stops they do have to change the tyres, right? But these tyres would be fine for an hour of racing. You know, they're effectively an endurance, sort of an endurance spec time, not quite an endurance spec time, you know what I mean? They're absolutely fine to run for an hour of racing. We just don't in this championship. We like having a little bit of strategy in the hour-long race. I like the fact there's 2 pit stops forced and that you've got to think outside the box to how it'll work. But for 33 minutes of driving, Moritz Lerner's definitely not going to be struggling with these tyres to bring them across the line in one piece.
No, certainly not. And teammate Beneke as well, basically Lerner and Beneke becoming the first 2 to take 2 mandatory stops. Mikovic's down at the back as well, so I'm not quite sure what's happened to the Hungarian, whether that's just 2 pit stops. Quite possibly. Wisniewski also looks like he's in as well, so slowly Beneke begins to pick up a few spots, and he's actually closed right in on a couple as well. Vanner, Hauben, Temenga. I think maybe it's just pit stops from 24th down, to be honest, looking at the names there. You've got Gronewald coming into the pits as well in the BMW, as we keep an eye there on Tomas Ribeiro. Interesting, Yarshall and Ribeiro continue on, so there's no reaction this time on the immediate lap after. Maybe they're not quite as fearful of Lerner's outright pace compared to Beneke in front. I'm not sure. Either way, it'd be interesting to see if these two pit at the same time again, or if Ribeiro decides to do something different to Yarshall.
I did think it was interesting that Tim Yarshall and Tomas Ribeiro both remained out on the circuit, and last time they covered them off by a lap, and even looking back at the opening round of the championship in Zandvoort, the top trio that were doing battle there, Manuel Vera, Alessandro Ottaviani and Max Benecke, were all basically pitting the trio within a lap or two of each other. Let's see if these two will continue out a little bit longer, maybe not fancying a half-hour stint to round out the second round of the DTM eSports Championship. There's a side-by-side, and the left-hand side has Moritz Lerner, the leader of those that have done 2 stops. And interestingly enough, our top 2 not venturing their way into the pit lane this time. They're confident in their own pace, so we'll have to keep an eye as to where they end up in a few laps' time when they do decide to work their way down into pit lane.
Just behind these two, Keithley and Page, side by side, I think, heading out of the last corner. There you can see, actually, Keithley's in the pit, so they were swapping places. I thought they were side by side. Nope, Keithley is in the pit lane, so we'll see where he comes out relative to the likes of Ottaviani and co. You've got Lerner, as you say, leading the pack, 44.6 seconds off the lead, so we're looking at around about 45 seconds for a pit stop, just under. So it's anyone's guess as to whether Yarshall, Ribeiro, or of course, Lerner are going to be leading after these stops cycle, but we could be waiting another 15 minutes, Lewis, before we see these stops. As you talked about, the tyres really not making a big difference. You've got Niklas Hauben going in pretty deep there into the left-hander. He's got a couple of Vitality cars either side, Ottaviani and Jujovski, of course. These guys about 15 seconds off of Lerner, so not really in the mix here for a win, Lewis, but certainly fighting to try and break into that top 12 in the race. We haven't seen too many big incidents in this race so far. I'm probably cursing it by saying that, but we've seen a couple of small bits of contact, but we haven't really seen any big crashes or flash points. So maybe less penalties on the cards. Maybe I'm cursing it by saying that. I'm not sure. I know you don't believe in the commentator's curse, Lewis, but
I don't. But I'm sure BS competition yesterday will be and I was like, wow, they're running really. Oh, one of them's backwards.
Well, you don't believe in the curse, but you may believe in racing drivers making mistakes and crashing.
Yeah, exactly. I don't believe in the commentator's curse. I believe in bad luck and bad driving.
And apply those principles well.
Racing drivers don't like hearing that. Don't worry though, when it comes to large crashes, we're not racing at Monza this season, so we'll be safe with whatever's happening there in GT World Challenge of the weekend. An enormous crash.
Caused by a sim racer, by the way.
Style. Indeed.
One of them.
Just good vibes. Clearly, your public lobby racing is vibing in real life as well. Tim Yarshall continues to lead from Tomas Ribeiro. The two of them are waiting their second. You mentioned that we might not see it for another 15 minutes. Technically speaking, there is nothing to say that they couldn't go to 25 minutes from this point. Your second stop, there is no mandatory requirement as to when you do it, as long as it's after the first one and before the checkered flag, for the final lap. Tomas Ribeiro said,
no.
Oh,
I'm going now, bye-bye.
Just to flag something though, the gap that's important here is Lerner. So that gap's been coming down from 44.6 to 43.8. Lerner's got clean air, and he's going to have clean air for most of this race as the drivers in front of him pit. He's got a 15-second gap in front of him. I think, based on the pace we've seen from Lerner and the gap changes, he's going to come out ahead of Ribeiro, and I wouldn't be surprised if Lerner ends up ahead of Yarshall after Yarshall's pit stop. But, of course, we'll have to wait and see, because anything can happen at this point, and we're talking tenths per lap, Lerner, in fact, looking at the gap now, it's going back up again, so I don't know if something's happened there to Lerner, or if it's just up and down a bit, but yeah, it's very hard to know.
It could be a little bit of just the sectors.
Exactly. Yeah, which is why you can't really predict what's going to happen until we see it. But of course, we're going to see here with the two pictures on. You've got Lerner on the right, you've got Tomas Ribeiro, the flying Portuguese driver, on the left for 0 Point Racing. Look how close Lerner gets to the tyre wall there on the exit of turn 11. Flat out through T12, 4 lanes on the speedway, out towards the wall on the outside. Ribeiro's still stationary, but right down the end of the pit lane. So Lerner's coming through at full speed. It looks at the moment like it's going to be Lerner. Ribeiro's about to head off, I'm sure, but Lerner enters turn 1. And in fact, Lerner's got a massive jump here on the Portuguese driver. You see him in the background. Lerner's miles out in front.
Yeah, indeed. Incredible there from the Maus team and from Moritz Lerner. Great strategy has given him a potentially very comfortable lead at present. 27 minutes and 12 seconds left to go in the race. Tim Yarshall still yet to come into the pit lane, and when he does, we'll see what the gap ends up being. Marco Pajic has found his way onto the lane though. So we'll see him. Sorry, actually, it was Florian Haas, so that would make way more sense with how they switched around. So Florian Haas has worked his way to pit lane for the Falcon team. His teammate Tim Yarshall remains at the front. Also the BMW, the champion car, the #1 of Lucas Muller, also into the pit lane. So Falcon pitted a couple of cars. That tells me that Tim Yarshall's pit stop is not that far away. If we pitted the other two, I'd suspect he might be at the end of this lap.
Yep, wouldn't be surprised at all. Falcon drivers often doing things planned and in a group, so we'll see what happens with Yarshall. Interesting, yeah, the pit lane entry here, Lewis, is a bizarre one, isn't it? Because you technically take a few positions for a couple of corners until you actually get down to speed at pit road, so it does get a little bit confusing on the tower, thinking people are running side by side, when in fact one is down pit lane. There's a learner now passing Hassa, Ribeiro goes through as well, so I think there was a very clear top three here. I don't think PH in fourth is really close enough to trouble these guys through strategy. I mean, he's still out on circuit, but he's 6 seconds behind Yarshall. That is our net P4 driver, is Marco PH. So really, you know, even if it's not gone well so far for Ribeiro here with this particular battle, third is the worst he's looking at without any major mistakes, and he's got his 2 pit stops out of the way now, of course, Lewis. So no potential for, you know, speeding in the pit lane, I should say, or for getting that pit stop wrong. So that's basically it from now on. He's going to just have to keep his eyes forward. I'm sure these drivers, though, even if they only finish third, they would take a P3 at this stage in the championship, given how the point structure works.
And Max Benneker, for I know the Max Benneker fans that join us, he does have a little bit of pressure there. There is a little bit of lap traffic for Tim Yarshall to navigate as Temenga drops a lap hit. I was going to say is Benneker, who is right on the rear end of Tim Rush, who's been defending a lot tonight, obviously from Alessandro Ottaviani fairly recently. Benneker will be the next one to try and find his way through. Some frustrations there after a driving penalty, and then a little bit off kilter on strategy. There is a look at Max Benneker, the race leader a little bit earlier on. I'm sure half an hour ago he was feeling very happy about how things were going. Now a little bit of frustration and just damage control. I think he's doing a pretty solid job, but he'll be desperate to get past the R8 very soon.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, looking at the timing there, Ottaviani and the likes are about 3 seconds up the road, so it's not huge. And Ottaviani was looking at around about P14, P15. Of course, lost a couple of spots in that battle we saw earlier. So it's at the moment, it's Benneker, I reckon, sitting around about a net 18, something like that. Tim Yarshall, our leader though, Lewis, is on pit road. So as he predicted, the Falcon Sim Racing driver following his teammates in. You've got Lerner on the left with Ribeiro just behind, and you've got Yarshall on the right. So as I called in Zandvoort with the pit stops, this could well be the race right here. And you can see now, PH down pit road as well.
Tim Yarshall knows how to win races at this level. I'm not 100% sure as to when Moritz Lerner's last race victory was. Tim Yarshall's was, technically speaking, in terms of the championship, only a couple of races ago, because it was right at the end. It was the season finale of last season. Tim Yarshall won half of the races last season, including the double at the Sachsenring. Won 5 of the 10 that we did, and sorry, it's 5 of the 12. I think that's not enough. It's near that. But this one, I think it's going to slip through his fingers here a little bit, because I think they've gone a little bit too long, and Moritz Lerner has played his cards brilliantly strategically so far this race. Into the opening corner, and it'll be an easy race lead retake from Moritz Lerner, and even into second position, Tomás Ribeiro. So unless they're expecting Ribeiro and Yarshall to be able to use those fresher tyres to close in, Moritz Lerner is in the pound seat right now and could be looking very comfortable for another 23 minutes.
Well, what is that, Lewis? I mean, is that coincidence that they've come out in exactly the order they pitted, in terms of whoever, you know, the driver that pitted first is first, the driver that pitted second is second, etc.? Or does it show that maybe there is a slight bite to those new tyres when they first come out of the pit lane? Because we've seen, obviously, we know how good Lerner is, we know how consistent he is. It's no fluke, I'm sure, that he's out in front. But it does make me wonder, is that, you know, just a couple of tenths a lap potentially for those new tyres? Maybe it's coincidence. Who knows? Hard to tell. We'll have to ask the drivers later on. But with 22 minutes to go, our top 3 looks pretty settled. I just wonder whether either of them or any of the 3 are going to have a special burst of pace in order to actually try and throw a spanner into the works.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, look at Moritz Lerner and Tomás Ribeiro. The gap's about 1.3 to 1.5 seconds. So it has come down a little bit. Ribeiro is closing down on Moritz Lerner. As we return to Max Benneker, his attempted recovery drive straight onto the rear end of the R8 of Roche. We saw him a lap or so ago as Christian Orban works his way into pit lane. Benneker unable to find his way past his compatriot ahead, back out on the start-finish straight. Clearly the R8 very punchy off the final corner, and it's got solid grip in the opening turn to try and fend off the big bad BMW M4 behind. You can see there's plenty of a gap heading into the opening corner. Beneke looks to the inside to try and send one. He's getting aggressive, and he is sending one. Fully aggressive there for Max Beneke to try and get past Tim Roche. I think he's absolutely fine. He left plenty of room to the exit of the track, just a bit of a dive. He'll have to go full send around the outside here at the end of the opening sector. We'll give him the inside for the next part, but the R8's trying to do the long way round. Inside at the end of this mid-stretch for Max Beneke will complete the move up to 18th position. John, you've raced your fair amount in the world of sim racing. What do you make of that one?
Interesting. Beneke obviously went for the big, bold move down the inside. I was actually surprised that Roche tried to hold on the outside rather than do that switchback. Of course, these drivers are in the middle of the race. They're not like us watching other drivers attempt it in many different ways and making a judgment on what to do. You're going to have to learn on the fly, but I was surprised to see Roche try and hold on. However, he did a great job, didn't he? Just about got the overlap sorted with Beneke through turn 3. But ultimately, it just looks like being on the left-hand side through that opening section is the place to be. If you have any sort of overlap and you can maintain it up until and through turn 3, you're going to come out of turn 5 ahead. That's what we've seen so far, and it was proven there once again. So good stuff from Beneke. Ultimately took a bold decision to send it down the inside and pulled it off.
Yeah, my general rule of thumb when it comes to dive bombs in my many years of driving and commentating and such is if you're diving it down the inside and you only keep it on the racetrack because the car on the outside, you pummel into the side of it, and that's the only thing that keeps you on the track, then that move, in my opinion, is obviously it's illegal, right? Yes, you can say that you were held on the track, but it's like the only reason you stayed on the track was because you smacked someone out of the way. If the move means that you stay on track even after a dive bomb, I'm fine with it, and I don't think Morris was actually leaving track there. So in my mind, that's actually pretty fine, really, isn't it? It's aggressive.
Yeah.
It's borderline. Yeah. But I think it's fine.
It's the top level. These guys are racing hard. We saw it in the real DTM as well. We've seen it over the season. You can have a really hard sim racing event where lines are touched but not necessarily crossed, and that's just an example of, you know, Beneke got down the inside, but he did get it stopped. The reality is he didn't force Roche off the track. Roche tried to hold it around the outside, and at the end of the day, he still had enough room based on where Beneke ended up, I would say. So yes, of course, harsh, but I wouldn't see a penalty coming for something like that anyway. I think that's what these drivers have to do. I mean, it may feel like an endurance race at 60 minutes, but trust me, this is a sprint for these guys. What's Florian Hasse going to do on the inside of Gronewald? He's going to try the same thing, and that is a big bump. It looks like Gronewald basically just turned in immediately on Hasse there, but I don't know if Hasse had enough of an overlap. So interesting one to actually make contact so early in the corner.
We see quite a lot of that though, a lot of bumps into that opening corner. Here's a throwback comment for you can remember where this one's from. Looked like a clean bump and run. I don't know if you remember that one from back in there. It was like 2012, wasn't it? If I remember correctly. In the V8 Touring Championship.
I love that. Clean bump and run. Fantastic.
Clean bump and run. So we had some good memes back in the day still.
What's bump and run in German? I'd love to know.
Well, it's not pushing out or whatever it was in the it's fun. We'll dance past that, by the way. There was, if you were wondering, PS competition fans, unfortunately, Marco Pejec just dropped down the order to 23rd position, despite running in the top 10 earlier in the race. That was courtesy of a drive-through penalty for speed. Another one who's come a cropper of that this afternoon. A couple of drivers having done so, obviously most notably this guy's teammate, Max Lerner, sits in second, will become the race leader once Florian Spiegel comes into the pit lane. But his teammate in Max Beneke sits in 18th position, still behind Tim Roche. Cannot get ahead and away from his compatriot.
He certainly can't. Spiegel, I'm expecting to come out of this pit stop in around about 26th, so towards the back, and then you will have your proper order. Every driver will have made their 2 mandatory stops. I'm a bit surprised that no one has tried, I mean, other than Spiegel, let's be clear, no one has tried to kind of go long in this race, but based on what we saw from Lerner, Ribeiro and Yarsho, going long potentially doesn't work as well around here for whatever reason that might be. Far from over, of course, this race. Keithley's having a good one as well. Keithley up into P5, which will become a net P4 with Oliveira behind him, so it's been a great job from the top Brit in the series at the moment. There he is in the TC eSports car. Keithley will be delighted after a difficult start to the season. Always a man who's right up there in the top series on Race Room.
and he's been in contention for plenty of championships over the years. Lewis, vastly experienced across multiple platforms, but really Race Room is where he's kind of found a home, you'd have to say, in recent years. Oliveira all over the back of him in the BS car, but Keith has obviously just made that move, so the Mercedes carrying the pace at the moment over the BMW, and Spiegel pulls into the pit lane, so we now have our authentic order as we now head down the pit straight. I wonder if Kike Oliveira is going to try and do something back here on Keith Lee. No, doesn't look like it. He's going to slot in behind and continue as they were.
Jack Keithley is doing a great job. We've said, I was on the chat with him actually just yesterday, saying about how the TC eSports team have really stepped up this season. We're kind of seeing that. We're seeing some really big flashes in TC eSports. You can see that of course the eSports team is taking eSports in general very seriously, even here in sim racing. Not even just the sim racing side, they obviously do a little bit, I think, of radicals and stuff, and racing prodigy and stuff. They take part a little bit on the motorsport side of things as well, and a little bit of that. It is great to see some of those names that are from outside the sim racing space come into it. I do have this thing, when obviously COVID and all that, a lot of the sim race that came from football, all goalkeepers. And I remember talking about some of the goalkeepers, seeing them racing on the F1 eSports, and even some of them here in the Cupra sim racing series. There was a couple. Marc-Andre ter Stegen was taking part. Thibaut Courtois, obviously one of the most recognisable goalkeepers in football, having an eSports team that's getting stronger and stronger. They're not just here for the joke.
Well, I mean, it's not just esports, it's racing in general. I mean, remember Fabian Barthez taking to the circuit? Yeah. Jersey Dudek, I believe, as well, as Beneke looks to the outside of Roche. They desperately want us to stop talking about football goalkeepers. It's going to be a common subject in the next few weeks, I'm sure, but Beneke and Roche are going to try their best to distract us from that conversation. Beneke is going to have the inside, but remember, it's going to become the outside unless he can get it done. And there it goes, Roche straight down the inside again, holds on to that P15 position. So great stuff from the German on the German. And Beneke is going to immediately dive down to the inside. This is the overtaking spot I was expecting more through turn 6. And he gets it done. Excellent opportunistic stuff from Beneke. And now all of a sudden Roche has got Sari and Kienzel behind for company. So excellent racing between the two of those. And well done, you've taken us away from football. But very briefly, Andre Villas-Boas as well, a manager getting into racing. Plenty of football and racing connections.
Well, I mean, obviously there's not team more in sim racing, rest in peace, but Drago Sim Racing, they were funded by the goalkeepers, his team. So there's a lot of it. There's a lot of overlaps in the world of sim racing motorsport. Imagine what the frustration level would have been there for Max Verstappen sat behind Tim Roche. Now, what is his mindset here, going back out onto the start-finish straight? It's like, you cannot let him. You can't be sat behind him trying to fight his way through. It's been a frustrating afternoon for Max Beneke, and it seems as though he might have 3 or so seconds of space ahead of him to try and keep up. Although Roche was going for it at the opening corner, but didn't quite get his way through, so Max Beneke will hold on to 15th position. His teammate, however, well, the pressure's building on his shoulders. It's Lerner from Ribeiro and Yarshall, 1.5 seconds. Ribeiro's pace has been enough for him to close in, and he's got the slipstream. 13 minutes left to go here, John. There's a lot of laps ready to capture our imagination as to what can happen there.
This has just sort of happened, hasn't it? Ribeiro just sneaking closer and closer to the back of Lerner. But he's got that slipstream now, Lewis, and it's a pretty strong slipstream from half a second back. It's not over, is it? It really isn't. And, Ribeiro, I'm not going to say it again because I've said it 6 times already, but he is a man on form. Lerner has not quite had the pace of his teammates so far this season, but we're talking a tiny sample size. We know how good Lerner is. I wonder if this is that tyre thing coming back in. And I may be totally missing the mark here, but the fact that Ribeiro stayed out a few laps longer than Lerner, I mean, we've spoken about it already. It doesn't make a difference, really, the tyres on race route, but that's in terms of the tyres lasting long enough to do a stint. You're not talking about a 2-second swing with an overcut and an undercut. You're talking about tenths. But in this championship, if you find 2 tenths a lap with a couple of laps extra in your tyres, that could make the difference because of how close it is. So difficult to know for sure. But Ribeiro certainly making a race of this, and Lerner's going to have to be careful.
And you can see by the purple indicator next to Tim Yarshall's relative to the race leader, he is the one with the fastest lap of the race, so he is closing in on this. They do also have a little bit of lap traffic up ahead for them all to navigate in the final portion of this race. So I'm sure Moritz Lerner will be keeping a very close eye on that car up ahead and figure out, right, how do I navigate this back marker as swiftly as possible whilst trying to keep Tomas Ribeiro at bay, searching for his first victory in the DTM eSports Championship. Tim Yarshall looking to continue winning, as he has done so many times, winning plenty of times on the way to his championship, winning 5 times last season. Unfortunately not the way to a championship for him, but still a solid run of results. Now looking to win in this new format for DTM eSports as well. Back to Marko Pejic, post drive-through penalty, 21st position. Nikodem Wisniewski, who has raced for the herd before, will sit in 20th.
Maybe 21st shortly, because it looked like Pejic was having a good run on him. We'll keep an eye on that one. You've got your, of course, 4/10 gap between Lerner and Ribeiro. I was going to mention actually Pejic, because it's a real shame. He's had such a good start to this one, good qualifying, strong race, and then it's all gone wrong with those pit stops. Of course, making his debut in DTM eSports for this season anyway, round 2 at the Lausitzring. Just I wanted to give a quick shout out as well to Jonas Vanner, who's in P8, simply because we haven't really spoken about him much. He's just quietly gone about his business, as to be fair has Lucas Müller in P9. These two haven't been shown much. They've just been putting in the laps, and they'll be scoring solid points today if nothing else goes wrong from now until the finish. You can see also Hakkinen and Ottaviani slowly working their way up to 10th and 11th as well. So slow progress, but a few positions made for sure. The gaps remain the same at the front though. It's 4/10 between Ribeiro and Lerner, coming up to some back markers, but the Mercedes jumping out of the way, so great stuff from whoever that may have been. Yarshall pick up the slipstream as well. And I tell you what, Ribeiro's close now, Lewis. 3/10 heading into turn 1. I reckon we're 1 or 2 laps away from a proper dogfight.
Yeah, we are there. 10 minutes left to go in the race, and Tomas Ribeiro is seeing Moritz Lerner sitting there and seeing his opportunity of victory sitting there. But I'm sure he'll be keenly aware that if he goes for anything, Tim Yarshall, who's got so many wins this championship, will be knocking at the door as well. There was a battle a little bit further back between Nick Taubman and Alessandro Ottaviani, the two of those switching over 11th position, the two Porsches having a fight in the opening sector. I'm sure there's been plenty of side-by-side, but it goes the way of Albon for now. And we head back to that fight. We can see the 2 vitalities there in 12th and 13th. I wonder if Ottaviani does leave the door open for Janowski again. Janowski will go through as he did earlier on the race, or maybe we'll recognise Alessandro Ottaviani as maybe the team leader. Is it too early to be talking about those kinds of games? Obviously, Ottaviani is the championship leader, but you kind of got to be scoring points as a collective.
There's 2 different questions there, isn't there? I mean, is there a team leader? I think probably not at this point in the championship, even though Ottaviani is leading, because it's so close. And Janowski was reasonably high up there in the first round. But the second question is, does that stop you working together? So I could see the 2 of them, doing something to benefit the team, not necessarily picking one driver over the other for the sake of them being higher up in the championship. But who knows? Who knows? It's all speculation. Ottaviani getting the back end out there on exit, and Janowski is going to be pretty close, so we'll see if they do change positions. I wouldn't expect it though. Janowski seems to be playing the wingman role sufficiently here today, and yeah, there you go, a little bit of a bump. So working together as a team, I don't think Janowski's going to ascend it here, is he? I think he's going to slot in behind and remain in P13, which is probably sensible at this stage, Lewis, has to be said. Maybe not as entertaining for us to see teammates not crashing into each other, but probably the right thing to do.
Oh, look, it's not a million miles away, you never know. We've got, they'll be. They've been in sim racing for a long time, as Ottaviani and Janowski, and whilst Ottaviani is more experienced on this platform, Janowski's not exactly a rookie on this platform.
Far
certainly
from it.
Not in the world of sim racing. Back to the fight for the race lead. Lerner trying to keep Tomas Ribeiro at bay. Ribeiro, who's been the 4-man on this platform for the last, 6 to 10 months. He's been getting stronger and stronger, finding his form. And that, it's his debut season as far as my stats say for him in the DTM eSports Championship for Tomas Ribeiro. Didn't race last season and is hunting down that victory. But I've got to say, that BMW M4 of Moritz Lerner is great drive off of the final corner, and it means that the Mercedes of Tomas Ribeiro doesn't have an opportunity into the opening turn, and so that leaves the question then, John, where on the circuit do you make that move?
You think turn 6, But that requires Ribeiro to be good here off of turn 5. And unfortunately, not that Ribeiro's not good off of turn 5. I think Moritz is just strong in the first half of the lap. The gap always seems to go up from, if it's down to 2 tenths or 3 tenths in the opening sector, it's maybe up to 5 by halfway through the lap. So it's the second half of the lap here where Ribeiro's strong. I guess he could look down the inside into turn 8. Currently heading through turn 7. So this is the other section. And you can see there he's closed in a little bit, but not enough. So it's going to be difficult for him. Yarshall, of course, not far behind either, 1.6 seconds still. So, yeah, very tricky. I think the problem Ribeiro's got, Lewis, is as much as we might say, well, he's not quick enough into the first corner or down the straight, that is kind of where you need to be quick, isn't it? You really do need to carry the speed in there to have a chance. Of course, we could see a mistake from Lerner. Now, don't forget, as experienced as Lerner is, there's a lot of prize money up for grabs with this championship. There's a €75,000 prize pool here, one of the biggest in sim racing. So it doesn't matter how experienced you are, how good you are, you're looking at 29, 30 of the best race room drivers on the planet competing for a lot of money. And it's very important. The likes of Ribeiro potentially not competed for this sort of prize pool many times in the past will be absolutely desperate. So Lerner's got to have his wits about him.
He'll be very hungry for it, but you say that drive off the final corner isn't good enough. It's the way you saw on the onboard there, Ribeiro, it seems as though he gets a little bit tight through the final corner. His line going into the penultimate corner is a bit different. He dips 2 wheels over the other side of the curb to pull the Mercedes around. Meanwhile, Moritz Lerner doesn't. Even looking here at 6, out so much wider is Moritz Lerner, who's carrying so much more speed through the corner. Very different approaches from these two, and we've got 3 different cars involved in this battle for the race lead. We'll see it again here in the final sector, so you can see those differing lines. What we see here are Ribeiro going for an earlier apex here in the start of this final sector, but it's really the double hairpin sequence where you'll see the real difference in line. Although that said, this time Lerner does dip it into the curb the same way Ribeiro did. Ribeiro a little bit tight there through the opening part of the final complex of corners, and that just kind of allows Lerner to push off that corner a little bit better.
Yeah, it seems to be working. This is probably the best run Ribeiro's had, actually, heading onto the pit straight now. And even in that slipstream, you can see the gap coming down, 2.5 tenths, almost down to 2 tenths. That could have been, if that was the last lap, Lewis, could it have been a send? Quite possibly. Speaking of sends, we're too wide here in the middle of the pack. This is Roche, Kunze, Payich on the outside there. And it looks like Roche is in the middle of the road trying to defend things. We're going to go left, right, left, all over the place. Payich now down the inside of Chari, who just about loses it in the rear, and he's going to now be under pressure from the recovering Wisniewski, I believe, in 21st. So it's all happening further down in the pack as well. Just keeping an eye on that 3/10 gap in the front, and your producer's also keeping an eye on it, clearly. It's getting very, very close between these two. 4 minutes to go, though. Ribeiro starts to think, how much risk do I take here? Do I settle for a fantastic P2, probably take the lead of the championship, or do I go all out for the win? There's not a huge points benefit to winning the race. It's something we spoke about earlier, Lewis. It's more about the consistency. So if you're sensible right now, you're not going to do anything stupid. That being said, racing drivers be racing drivers. We could see something bold, we could see something brave, but calculated. Heading through this final sector, let's see now the fantastic spark effects on race room, lighting up the sky here at the Lausitzring beautifully today. I wince every time these drivers come past this tire wall, by the way, on the exit of 11. We've been watching the Monaco Grand Prix this weekend, and there's lots of close stuff, but it's just as close here at the Lausitzring. Ribeiro 3/10 off. Could this be the moment?
Yeah, I was going to say he's been closer than he's been before, but not close enough. It's the run out of turn 5 and 6. Well, if you want to see them get close to a wall, watch how close they get off of turn 5. They get incredibly close to the barrier here at the end of the opening sector. I mean, watch this. Let's see this is when they give a kilometre to it now. Let's see how close Ribeiro gets. I mean, I know it's not like you're easing up on the steering wheel. It's not like you're throwing it out of the corner like going through the swimming pool section, but it's still, they are not leaving much space between them and the barrier. They'll have to get used to that. Obviously, in a month's time when we go racing at the Norris Ring, they'll be leaving 0 millimetres to the barriers and probably going into them a little bit when they're pushing that a little bit too hard. We'll have to wait and see.
I'm glad you love Norris Ring as well. I think it's just a fantastic circuit. It's so much fun to drive around, apart from the first corner. So much fun to drive around and race around. It really is. So I can't wait to see these drivers battle out around there. But I must say, no complaints about the Lausitzring so far, Lewis. It's been fantastic to watch, and we've seen some great racing throughout the field. Obviously, not too many overtakes going on for the lead, but having said that, earlier on we did see a few when there was a group of 4. And it's definitely not over yet with 2.5 minutes to go. So it's Lerner, Ribeiro and Yarshall, top 3 as they were Keithley, Oliveira, Hasse, 4th, 5th and 6th, and then Grunewald, Muller, Vanner and Hakkinen rounding out your top 10 for the time being.
Indeed, I'm sure we'll get some chops and changes in the final complex, the final couple of laps here in the race, but will there be one for the race lead? As close as it's been for Tomas Ribeiro against Moritz Lerner, Tim Yarshall doesn't quite have the pace to keep up with these two, but one incident between the pair of them will open up the opportunity for the German to sneak the race victory over them. 2 laps left to go in the setting sun here at the Lausitzring. Moritz Lerner is doing a brilliant job at the moment to deal with that pressure. That heart rate will be rising to levels of cardiovascular exercise, I'm sure. He's pushing the 150s, 160s. If you don't believe me, well, you got to take part in sim racing yourself. We both know, John, that your heart rate does fly up in the middle of a race.
Yeah, it's reaching levels close to you during your 5k coming up very soon. So it's going to be. But it is. You're so right. Jokes aside about heart rates, sim racing is very intense. It's emotionally intense as well as physically intense, Lewis. And it's not because it's exhausting to do. It's mentally exhausting, and with the force feedback wheels and everything that you've got, there is an element of physicality to it as well. These drivers are the best in the business, you know, they're well prepared for these sorts of things, but now we're into a race running at this level with this much pressure. Adrenaline is coursing through your veins, and that is exactly what's going to be happening between these two right now as we head into the first corner for what could be the final time. And it's defensive line from Lerner. Ribeiro goes outside, he's going to maybe try a switchback here, Lewis, but it looks like Lerner's hung on for the time being.
The final 3.4 kilometre lap around the Lausitzring, and once again it's incredibly close. It's getting closer though because of the defensive line that's being taken here from Moritz Lerner. There is going to be an opportunity down into 6 for Tomas Ribeiro. He's a little bit too far behind, and again too good to the corner. Moritz Lerner, brilliant stuff, bit of a lock up there for Ribeiro. You can see these two are leaving nothing on the table.
Yeah, Ribeiro getting nice and close behind Lerner. The 2 big overtaking opportunities are gone, but there's still a few more that it can be done here at the Lausitzring. Again, though, Ribeiro just over 2 tenths behind. It doesn't sound like much, but in this situation it is a lot. He ducks to the inside, but he's not going to be able to do something there. And one more corner ticked off for Lerner as we head towards the final complex.
Indeed, double hairpin left to go. Moritz Lerner sitting at the front of the field, didn't take part last season. Ribeiro's throwing it all on the line as they head their way through 10, through 11, and then out onto the start finish straight again. We welcome Miles back into the DTM eSports Championship, and in a big drag race up towards the line. I think Tomas Ribeiro is going to have to settle for second because Moritz Lerner is venturing his way back up to the top spot. It is going to be a big drag race between the pair of them, separated by 0.5 tenth of a second. Moritz Lerner will return to winning ways in the DTM eSports Championship, defeating Ribeiro here at the Lausitzring. Tim Yarshall will round out the podium behind.
Yeah, fantastic stuff from our lead group there. Lerner, as you say, taking the win. You can see all the other drivers finishing now. So you've got KK Oliveira 5th behind Jack Keithley. Those two in a battle of their own, but great points in the championship. Fastest lap as well for Tim Yarshall, 19.6, but it was very close between the top 3. And then you've got everyone else, of course. So Oliveira, Hasse, Grunewald, Muller, Vanner and Hakkinen, your top 10. Hauben holding off against Ottaviani and Jujovski to finish 11th, 12th and 13th respectively. Benneke back up to 15th by the end of the race. So a good comeback in the end for Benneke, but you have to say, Lewis, dropped points regardless.
Here's a look at your provisional race results. Moritz Lerner, Tomas Ribeiro, Tim Yarshall in 3rd position with Jack Keithley in 4th. Shout out to that great drive from Keithley. Kaki Oliveira in 5th position. Hasse, Grunewald, Muller, Vanner and Turka Hakkinen to the top 10 as well. Good drive as well from Florian Hasse after the disappointment, of course, the last round at Zandvoort. And I mean, look, highlight of that group, I've got to say, Tomas Ribeiro really put it all on the line there, didn't he? Fantastic drive, was 4th a little while ago, a week ago rather, at Zandvoort, and 2nd here. That victory is close, John.
It certainly is, and Ribeiro is absolutely, make no bones about it, a true contender in this championship battle. He's been the man on form, and I think today was his coming of age in the DTM eSports Championship. Yes, he finished well in the first round. Yes, he's 4th in the standings, but to follow that up with this event here, qualifying it on the front row, finishing 2nd, right behind a man of the caliber of Moritz Lerner, it's mega impressive from the Portuguese driver, and yeah, absolutely a contender for this championship. As is Lerner, as is Yarshall, who's coming back from a very bad start. Keithley as well, great job to get back up to 4th. Good drives all the way through, and I have to say, Lewis, credit where credit's due to this field, because the racing today was incredibly clean from what I could see. Yes, it was hard, but it was fair.
Indeed. Look, I really enjoyed that, thoroughly enjoyed that. Give a bit of a shout out as well to Jack Keithley, who started outside the top 10, gained, he said he's just told me he's gained 8 spots, which is incredible from Keithley. Hopefully we'll be able to catch up with some of our top drivers at the end of that, because there is, I'm sure, a lot of stories to be told from that race. Brilliantly exciting, and I'm sure when we go racing in a month's time at the Norris Ring, it'll be very much the same thing.
I thoroughly enjoyed the first round at the Zandvoort, despite there being a little bit less in terms of overtaking. There was more sort of build-up of battling, but not actually, moves being made or dive bombs being made that were successful. Here, it was like every second lap into the first corner, we had 2 wide, we had switchbacks, changing positions. It was great. And of course, the field was so closely matched as well. It just means that the drivers have to get everything out of that car and everything out of the race if they want to maximize their points. Interesting strategy-wise as well, Lewis. It was a little bit less standard than Zandvoort. We did see a bigger difference with drivers coming into the pit lane. I don't know if that's the nature of the pit lane. Maybe it's easier to lose lap time on the entry with Lausitzring. Maybe it's a tire thing. I'm not quite sure, but interesting to see a bigger spread after the stops. I wasn't quite expecting that this time around. But, that's basically where Lerner did the business. He didn't necessarily have the pace over Ribeiro. He got the pit stops right, and he went from 4th before the first stop to 1st by the end of the second stop.
Do you know what I've just been told? And this is always one of those ones where I'm like, wait, really? Nikodem Wisniewski wasn't quite up to his normal pace, was he? We normally expect Nikodem to be a very competitive driver, and yes, that and the other. Some information I've just been passed. Apparently, he was racing on a keyboard.
No way.
What do you make of that?
Surely not. Surely not. I mean, Wisniewski, we know how good Wisniewski is, as you've said, but this field is so good that I didn't think anything strange about someone who was good being in P20, right? Because they're all good. That's crazy if that's the case, and not possible for a human being anyway, so certainly some alien activity going on there.
Yeah. We'll hopefully be grabbing it, but we're not 100% sure as to whether our technical side on this is working. If we can't catch up with them, I'm sure you'll be able to do that on social media as well to see what the drivers have all been up to. But we'll just give it a second to see if we can figure ourselves out. Let's obviously talk about next round, John, because the Norris Ring, very different kettle of fish, and it's again, we'll be racing on back-to-back weeks. Yes, it's in a month's time, but we'll be racing at the Norris Ring before having a very short breather and racing again the week after.
Yeah, it's relentless, this championship. They'll be grateful for the breather right now. Not that Norris Ring requires as much practice necessarily as other rounds. All the rounds require a lot of practice at this level, but Norris Ring, as you alluded to earlier, is just 4 corners. 4 very different and interesting corners, though. That first hairpin, we've seen it in the real-life championship, we've seen it in eSports series throughout the years. It's chaos, it's carnage, it's such a tight hairpin, very difficult to get around there with the turning circle, and of course that leads to drama. And we like a bit of drama here in the commentary box every once in a while, as long as it's sensible enough. And yeah, I mean, I've been pounding around the Norris Ring a lot on Race Room recently, thanks to the new DLC, the DTM 95, the DTM 2002 cars, really nostalgic action that this Race Room DLC has brought to the sim racing world. Even Super Tours as well, it's great. Basically, any car is good around Norris Ring. And that central section of the track, Lewis, the turn 2 and 3 chicane, talk about drivers getting close to walls. We're going to see drivers smacking into walls regularly.
Yeah, indeed. And look, I love myself a little bit of Norris Ring, Oschersleben immediately after that. A couple of circuits we've raced an awful lot here in DTM eSports. One of those joys of it being open, of course. The fact that everyone can come and take part is probably about the perfect time to jump on to Race Room and get yourselves involved and maybe try out some of those packs there in the DTM side of things. It's I say there's loads of good things to look at in the history of motorsport that's on Race Room here, and there's lots to think about when it comes to what you can kind of adapt your skills to.
Yeah, Race Room makes my job very easy at times because I get to cover lots of new content that comes to sim racing, and thankfully as a big motorsport fan over the years, I love talking about historic racing coming to a modern sim platform and being able to relive those moments. And through the ranked racing system on Race Room, which you can sign up to for free, by the way, just simply by downloading Race Room. You're there. You're in the ranked racing section of the game. You might need to buy the content depending on what the content is, but some cars and tracks are free. You can buy packs to give you lots of content for a very cheap amount of money as well. And you can get on the ladder. You can build your safety ranking, build your driver rating, take part in races in modern GT3s or old DTM cars or old Super Tourers against other drivers with similar skill levels, work your way up, and who knows, maybe eventually you'll find yourselves in the top split of DTM eSports in a future championship, because this is all being run through the current day ranking system on Raceroom. So basically what you see now is entirely accessible for everyone watching at home, as long as you have a PC and you want to get on Raceroom. Maybe even using a keyboard, according to Wisniewski. Anything's possible.
Obviously, his rating has been made through him driving on a wheel. He's not always driving on a keyboard. But then again, I remember some drivers back in the day always racing on controllers and stuff and moving their way forward. You've all got to start somewhere. Raceroom's quite an adaptable platform. You can kind of get yourselves a little bit involved with an awful lot. You and I, we've both had our fair share of experiences on the platform, a fair share of experience in sim racing, and the way the platform works is really good for you getting involved. And the fact that the DTM eSports Championship is now open for everyone to take part on, it's maybe a bit of a downside for some, like Manuel Vera, who obviously was taking part and kind of battling his way through in the last round, but now is in split 2 for this round. It's a bit, yeah, it is what it is.
It is. Hopefully, though, Vera can spend some time in the Ranked Racing Championships and make his way back up into Split 1 for the future rounds. And I believe we may shortly be able to hear from some drivers. So we'll move ourselves over to the interview booth. And hopefully we can hear from the likes of Moritz Lerner and potentially even our second place finisher, Tomas Ribeiro, as well. Both of those drivers I'm very fascinated to hear from after what has been a fascinating race. And yeah, I want to hear what the strategies were, what they think made the difference. So let's find out soon.
Let's give it a go then. We'll see if we can hear from them. Let's give it a whirl.
I can hear you though. I have my phone for Zoom though, so the audio is terrible. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, then we can do the interview, I guess. Pretty nice. Coming back again into the championship after not driving last season's championship is obviously. You obviously want to be doing good again, want to do well. I'm here in the end to win, to also win the championship. So first round was okay already. I had a fun race, so I don't even complain that much about, P7 there. But this race went pretty much perfect from start to finish, really good qualifying lap, which got me a good position to start the race. The Audi and the Mercedes were really quick in qualifying, so it was tough to do anything against them. But in the race, we had some good pace. Max and I did some good practice for the race. So, tire life and all that stuff. So, with the strategy calls, which were absolutely perfect, spot on once again in this race, I was able to, go into the leading position and, was able to keep everyone behind me and not get overtaken or taken out like in the last race. Bit unfortunate for Max, obviously. I think he would have deserved to win. Quite a lot, probably even more than me, because he's always this tiny little bit faster. But yeah, luck was a bit more on my side. Unfortunately, the luck was not with Max. Otherwise, it could have been Maus 1-2, which would have been nice, of course. But yeah, he'll be back next time, and we can still do this Maus 1-2 in the next rounds. It was definitely the timing. The pit window basically just opened when we got into the pits, so it was a very, very late call. But I knew that if you do the undercut, especially in the beginning of the race, you're gonna have the track position. So I did one overtake like that. I was hoping obviously to get Tim already there, but that didn't work out. He was too far ahead when I did my pit stop. But the undercut was always the thing that I wanted to do. obviously, if the two in front of me would have pitted at first opportunity as well, I would have stayed out. So the call was always there for me to go in early as possible, and basically just see what the cars in front of me are doing and react to that. And it worked out. They stayed out one lap longer. I pitted pretty much immediately. That got me one position. And then after a couple of more laps, I again went for the undercut. Well, I just know it works. It worked last time against him as well in Sanford. I was quite surprised that he didn't learn from it from last race. But yeah, it worked out again. They stayed out quite long. They tried a little bit something different to come back in the end with fresher tires. But yeah, after some laps, the offset is not that big anymore between the tire life, and then you can defend quite nicely with even older tires.
Well, Moritz, thank you so much for chatting to us, and once again, we'll chat to you, I'm sure, at some point later on this season.
Sure, hopefully many more times.
Cheers, Moritz. To hear that from Moritz Lerner again, and like I say, certainly a driver I expect to hear from an awful lot this season, John. But obviously, there's a whole host of drivers that take part in this championship, including some old teammates for you, John. That's obviously an interesting one. Jack Keithley should be joining us here in a second. We'll see if we've actually got a copy on Jack, if he can actually hear us.
If he can unmute his mic quick enough, I think that's the challenge right now.
That is the challenge. Jack Keithley. There you go. We're getting the 1 second. It's fine. I'll hold fire for an interview from Jack Keithley. Obviously, one of sim racing's absolute best and an old teammate for you, John. We'll let him figure it out.
Yeah, Jack helped me a lot in my early career, showing me what I would never, unfortunately, be able to manage to do with my sim racing career. But gave me a lot of help. Very useful teammate.
Jack Keithley does join us in the comms booth. Jack, you were messaging me a little bit about how you'll rise up through the order. I mean, talk to me about that one. Clearly, you and TC eSports are getting stronger and stronger in sim racing, it seems, and you're right back towards the front again.
Yeah, I feel like not so much where I deserve to be, but where I want to be. Obviously, sharp end of the field. Qualifying wasn't great, but what a past 2 days it's been. To come home 4th from starting 12th, I'm extremely happy with that. And Koiki, that guy, he just would not. I wish he would just give up. I wish some people would just give up, but these people just don't do that. What's wrong with them, mate?
What was it about the Lausitzring that you think made the difference in terms of you being able to make that progress? Because it's such a competitive field, Jack. You know how fast everyone is out there, but you were somehow able to put the moves on folk. Is it something about this circuit you enjoy, or did you have a plan going into it?
It's one of my favourite circuits. No real plan. I was not able to do as much practice going into this as I wanted to. I don't think I've done a run more than like 8 laps in a single go. So beyond 8 laps, I'm in the unknown when it comes to my tyres. So I was just praying they held on as long as they did. But I love this track. I feel like it's one of the few tracks I can get onto the pace in pretty quickly, but with more practice, I can do that pace more consistently. Wasn't able to do that in practice for here, but I feel like I've got a very good grip of the track. And also with the car, I was able to recognise when Koiki was behind me, just where the car's at its absolute strongest. And I knew as long as I kept doing that, I was going to keep my position. I just about did. So it's a lot of it with here is just experience and just complete focus and concentration.
Yeah, I'm going to try and be respectful here, so don't be offended. You're one of the more experienced drivers on the field. You've put your fair share of laps into all of the circuits we're racing this season. You say you're quite comfortable around here at the Lausitzring. Any others this season? I mean, look, surely you love a little bit of Norrisring like me and John.
I am good at Norrisring, and I've had success there. I really do like Norrisring. To be honest, the tracks like Norrisring and Lausitz where you can race, and you can actually follow close and get someone a mistake, whereas places like Sachsenring and Oschersleben, it's very hard to follow, and that's where overtaking is much harder. But tracks like this, you've just oh, sorry, I'm just buzzing right now. You've just got to really just focus just on where you're most likely able to overtake, but there's plenty of opportunity to overtake on here. And when we go Norrisring, same there. But I'm usually quite good there. Last couple of outings not been so great, but I know historically I'm good. So I hope I'll keep this good finishing going, because yesterday was great, today's been great. So let's keep it going.
Indeed. TC Sports moving from strength to strength. Jack, thank you so much for joining us, and look, I'm sure podiums and victories are not too far away.
Absolutely not. They won't be at this rate. So, vamos.
Cheers, Jack.
All right, you guys there.
And there we go. Great to chat there to Moritz and to Jack, and great to see great to see more action here in DTM eSports. Not too long before we're racing at the Norrisring.
From round to round, but the thing that gets it for me is just the spread of field, the fact that you can have a good race one week and still be only maybe a tenth of a second off the pace the next week, but be down outside the top 10. It's the strength and depth of the championship that makes it so exciting. And it's going to reach a crescendo as we go into the season. But before you know it, we're going to be halfway through this. And Norrisring is certainly going to throw the cat amongst the pigeons in terms of how it affects the order. Interesting to see which cars go well there too. Of course, it will be a track that suits cars with good traction from low speed, good top line performance as well. So maybe we'll see a completely different order once again.
Indeed. Alessandro Ottaviani was able to win the first round of the championship. A little bit of disappointment here at the second round of the Lausitzring. Moritz Lerner has been victorious. No more racing in the DTM eSports Championship for the rest of June. We will be back in the 11th of July. It will be back-to-back rounds at the Norrisring and Oschersleben a week after that. We'll keep our fingers crossed. It'll be exciting. If there's one thing we can guarantee, it will be dramatic. From myself, Lewis McGlade, from John Moreau, and from Aidan Butler, who's bringing all of us the broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us here for DTM eSports, and we'll see you in July. Until then, bye-bye.